My next guest wants to make sure the federal government is ready with the newly created Smart Transportation Caucus. Congress wants to focus on new innovations in the autonomous vehicle industry. Joining us now for the Spark is Senator Gary Peters from Michigan. Welcome, Senator. I hope you can pronounce better than I just did. But listen, is this a bipartisan effort, and how pressing is it for you guys to indicate one way or the other, where you're going to have the highway system going with regard to this new technology?
Well, I think it's coming sooner than anybody really anticipated in the past. We are looking at just incredible advances in technology, vehicle-to-vehicle technology, as well as vehicle-to-infrastructure. There are going to be incredible benefits in terms of vehicle safety that are going to be realized in the short term, eventually autonomous vehicles. But we need to do a couple things here in Congress, which I'm focused on. And that's one, to keep the spectrum available so that vehicles and infrastructure can communicate. That's the 5.9 gigahertz on the spectrum scale. There are folks that want a piece of that. We've got to look at ways that we can responsibly protect that because of the safety applications, as well as wiring our roads and infrastructure so that that information can be presented to automobiles as well.
Senator, some academics have made the point that thinking about driverless cars, we need to keep in mind aviation. And though planes largely pilot themselves, there's the need for pilots to be pretty sophisticated when it comes to that technology, staying aware with their planes so that they make sure they intervene when necessary and that kind of thing. What about the impact this could have in terms of needing to unify state standards for traffic rules, new classes of licensure for drivers in vehicles that are more autonomous than others? I mean, just how different could the future of driving look?
Well, it could look radically different. It's going to take a while before we get there, but just in the short run, if we have vehicles that are communicating with each other, for example, the vehicle ahead of you, if it starts to brake, that braking would then be communicated to your car, which would then allow for it to brake for safety purposes. In fact, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration believes just some of the newer technologies, the safety technologies that are being implemented, could eliminate up to 80% of all crashes on our roads. And at a time when 30,000 people die every year on highways, that's significant. But that's the short-run applications, including the to infrastructure. When you come to autonomous vehicles, and that's going to be a completely different area, and we still have got a ways to go there, but we're making very quick advances. Many folks believe that it may be less than 10 years when you see a lot of autonomous vehicles on the road.
Yes, Senator, I think, this is Herb Greenberg, I think that 10 years autonomous, I would say, based on the research I've done, people are saying at least 20 years for you really to see, based on what Kelly was talking about, all of these, you've got so much going on, and while the technology will be there, there will be a lot of hype around it. We're going well beyond your tenure, I believe, probably, well beyond my tenure before we ever see this. And I do hope I live to see it, hope to see it.
Yeah, Senator, quick last word. How much of this do you have to do right now to make sure that you can anticipate whether it's coming in 5 years or 25?
Well, I think in the short run, it's the spectrum to make sure the technology can develop, because it is about developing this. You've got to make sure the spectrum's there. You've got to be able to make sure the roads are wired. But I think, to the point, your analogy with airplanes, it's the same thing. There's going to be different steps will be taken. In fact, we've got General Motors that are going to, they believe they'll have a Cadillac in the next couple models that'll be able to drive down a highway. Similar like an airplane, just, driving or flying in the air without any of the complications. You're not going to have a car driving through a city in autonomous for quite some time, but something as simple as driving down the highway, which is why we need vehicle-to-infrastructure technology. And that can be very safe and done much more quicker than the complete autonomy that you might see in a city, for example.
Certainly a good first step. We know cars talking to each other is bound to happen as well, Senator. We'll come back and see what else happens as this technology continues. That's Senator Gary Peters. Really appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thank you.